Okay, nothing against the dilly dilly, but I'm sitting here with the Bud Light. You guys know whatever. But certainly when it comes to, where's the line going? We've seen nothing but Eagles money. I mean, it hasn't been crazy. It's not super one-sided, but the bigger bets have come in on Philadelphia. The line has moved down from the opener. We're looking at 4 or 4.5, pretty much across Las Vegas and across the offshore world. I don't see that changing a whole lot between now and kickoff. There was the thought that once Gronkowski was cleared to play that we'd see a little bit of New England money. That hasn't really happened. So I'm expecting the game to close 4, 4.5. Total-wise, we've seen a little bit of pressure on the over. Certainly in the last 24 hours, a lot of the books have moved already to 48.5. We're seeing a couple of 49s pop up. I think this total probably closes 49. So if you like the over, you can find a 48 now. There's still some out there. There are 48.5 certainly out there. If you like the under, you probably want to wait until closer to kickoff.
All right, let's go down to Zach here real quick.
Yeah, I think with the point spread, it opened at 6.5. It opened at 6.5 to start with the Patriots, obviously with their Super Bowl history and their pedigree with Bill Belichick, Tom Brady. The history speaks for itself. But what we've seen in the playoffs, Philadelphia Eagles were the #1 team bet this year. When I was in the sports book this year, every Sunday, the claps, the roo-rahs were the loudest when Philadelphia was scoring touchdowns, and they were covering at a high rate. We saw in the playoffs, obviously with Nick Foles at quarterback, the line was incorrect. So I think that's what people are thinking here. And here locally, it's at 4 at Westgate and Station Casinos, which offshore is 4.5. So looks like the books don't want that liability locally right now.
All right, very good, and we apologize. We had a little technical difficulties this morning, so we're working with the mic. It's all going to be good. Brady, let's move on, and we'll hit all three of you guys with this. But is there anything in particular that you look for when you're evaluating the Super Bowl line and subsequent movement, line total, etc.?
Well, Patrick, the Super Bowl line is pretty consistent the way it moves year in and year out. You typically have the wise guys or the syndicates will jump on a line early, and then later into the week when the public comes into town, they'll get involved. And I tell you, the line in the Super Bowl is one game that's very different from really any other game the entire year, where the syndicates and the sharps and the wise guys, whatnot, will move lines throughout the season. But the Super Bowl, really, the line is moved by the public because there's so much massive amount of public interest in the Super Bowl that they really move the line more so than the syndicates do on the Super Bowl. So we'll see the public bet the underdog on the money line. They love to bet a little to win a lot, and then usually you'll have the sharper bettors come in and bet the favorite when that money line is really low and expresses some value. So those movements on a Super Bowl line, we typically see that pattern year in and year out.
All right, let's move along to Teddy Savransky on that same subject.
Well, the one thing that Brady mentioned at the end that I think is really important to note is one of the unique things about the Super Bowl is that most people that like the favorite are going to lay the points with the favorite. Most bettors that like the underdog, or many bettors that like the underdog, are going to take the underdog on the money line. That creates generally legitimate value with a favorite on the money line wager prior to kickoff. That being said, I wouldn't recommend anyone play New England on the money line. Why? The last 5 big favorites in the Super Bowl, 5 favorites at more than a field goal, none of them have covered. Only one of them has won the game straight up. So even if you like the Patriots, I'm laying the points. I'm not going to get involved with laying 2-1, asking New England to win.
All right, move along to Zach there and get your thoughts there, Zach.
I think I don't really have much to say as far as the Super Bowl line movement, but with the Patriots, obviously they played in close Super Bowls historically, and they play at their pace. And so I think people are settling on the small line. They think it's going to be the same pattern. And the Philadelphia Eagles, they really haven't pushed the tempo with Nick Foles besides that game against the Vikings. So it's going to be another close game with the Patriots there.
All right. I'm going to go right back to you on this, Zach, because Brady brought this up. It's different than other games, betting the Super Bowl versus betting a regular season game, or even a playoff game, because you do have the bye week built in. Does that factor into your handicapping for this game?
I think I remember last year I answered this. I'm going to answer it the same way. Not really. I think you don't want to reinvent the wheel. Like I was driving in, and on the radio they were talking about all the exotic props. Will Justin Timberlake bring out Janet Jackson? Of course he will, because he needs to redeem himself, or Janet Jackson wants to redeem himself. It's a good thing to do for the NFL. This, that. It's thinking too much about it. Don't reinvent the wheel, but have fun with it at the same time.
All right, very good. Let's move along. Do you guys put much? I'm sure people are interested in this. The news came out yesterday. I don't think this was a surprise at all that Gronkowski is going to play. Do you think that is going to have any impact? So far, it's had no real impact here in Vegas. Do you think that'll have any impact as we go through the weekend heading up to kickoff?
No, and Teddy alluded to it earlier. We haven't seen much line movement because of Gronk being announced that he's going to play. I think people, I know myself, we figured he was going to play all along, and I think the odds makers felt that way as well. It was probably built into the price to begin with. It's interesting that the price, like Zach said, came out 6.5, even 7, and is all the way down to as low as 4. And I've heard some people say that it might get to 3.5. But I would think that the public now arriving in Las Vegas, probably today and tomorrow, they're going to hear that news about Gronk and maybe jump on more so than us that are in the know and do this stuff for a living type of thing. The public hearing that news about Gronkowski, that could make a difference for them. And as I said, there's a lot of public money that's going to be wagered this weekend.
All right, very good. You want to add to that at all, Ted?
Just one last thing. It's really important to note, when you're talking about the Super Bowl, all the money that's come in so far, the vast majority of the money that's come in so far, that's been wise guy money. That's what's driven the line down from the opener 6, 6.5 to the current 4, 4.5. That's not public money. That's all sharp money on Philadelphia or bigger bettors on Philadelphia. I don't want to say it's all sharp money because there have been guys that aren't necessarily sharp placing big bets on the Eagles going around town. But when you talk about the ability of the like where this line is going to go and what the public actually means, 95% of the Super Bowl handle comes in the next 48 hours. All right, between now and kickoff. So everything we've seen so far is literally like a smidgen of what we're going to see. There's a potential for it, certainly when it comes to the props go out of control over the weekend. The line's not going to go nuts, but when the public comes in and starts betting all the plus 800s and you can oftentimes find legitimate value that wasn't there even as late as today.
All right, very good. Let's just quickly hit you guys on one more thing real quick. Since you guys all have to, as handicappers and so forth, you certainly got a bankroll you've got to manage. Maybe a couple of tips for managing the Super Bowl bankroll from each one of you, and we'll just go down the line. We'll start with you, Zach.
I say managing your bankroll, just don't go too crazy with the props. Treat it like it's a regular season. You've got so many options out there during the regular season, 12 games a week with the bye weeks. But with the prop weeks, there's 20 pages at most of these sports books. Zero in on 4 to 5 props. Figure out the amount of money you want to wager and go have fun with it. But don't go bet every prop on each page or 3 to 4 props on each page. Keep it simple. Keep it simple, stupid. That's the old retail method.
the old KISS method. Look, I mean, I know multiple people with 7-figure bankrolls that are legitimately all in when it comes to Super Bowl props, where they bet every single dollar they have. But they're not doing what you're going to do. Okay, what these guys are doing is they're running around town every day and picking off prices. Oh, this one's mispriced. Oh, there's no Don Best screen for props. The Covers Live odds page doesn't have all the props on there.
Exactly.
So the advantage is that there's enormous variance from one book to the next. We're here at the Mirage. If you walk across the Treasure Island, it'll be a different number. And if you walk across the Venetian, it'll be a different number. And then when you're talking about the offshores, there are different numbers everywhere. So what the pros do, the reason they're getting down all of this money on the props, they're taking advantage of off-market numbers. They're picking off one off-market number after the next. They do it day after day. That's not a strategy that I would recommend for anybody that has a full-time job other than betting on sports. Right. What you want to do if you're betting, if you want action for the Super Bowl, look, have fun, bet some props, but don't be stupid about it. I mean, literally. I mean, people that bet 20 times what they bet on a normal game on the Super Bowl. You need that Jones for action. There's an issue. You can get action with a normal size wager and with a couple of prop bets or a handful. But when you say find a couple, there are positive expectation bets out there in the proposition market all the way through from the time they open to the time they close. They're good bets. I put out, a dozen props for my clients, and I have more than that in my pocket. I'll put it that way.
All right, very good. Brady, let you speak to props a little bit as well.
Well, I think you always have to follow the golden rule of sports betting, and that's never mess around with more than you can afford to lose. And whether it's week 5 of the regular season or the playoffs or the Super Bowl, you have to treat it the same way. And, that's hard to say sometimes or hard to execute sometimes for a guy that's coming in from the other side of the country and is excited to be here and do the Super Bowl in Las Vegas. But you have to stick to what money you've allotted for the trip. You've got this much money set aside for the dinner you're going to on Saturday, and this much money for the craps table, and this much money for the prop bets, and you just have to be disciplined about that. Sports betting is as much about discipline as it is about picking the right side. I think if you're going to put a larger wager on the game, maybe you stick to a side or a total with that, and then get a little bit smaller and more for entertainment value with the props. That's typically the way I treat it. I don't spend a lot of money on the props, but I like having action to watch throughout the entire game. Who's got so many tackles and how many passing yards, and that's really all entertainment for me. And I do place my more serious wager just on the game or the side or the total itself.
All right, Teddy's going to follow up here. He nudged me. He's like, I got something. Oh, I forgot it. Oh, no, I got it again. So we'll give it back to Teddy to follow up on that.
Well, the worst thing is when you hand me the mic and I'm like,
Sound like Beavis and Butthead.
Yeah, exactly. But there was an important point that Brady made talking about how people are going to bet the game. The guys that come to Vegas don't get into trouble. You can't get into trouble because all you can bet is what you have. Okay?
Right.
The guys who are betting on credit, that's where you get screwed on the Super Bowl. Be careful out there if you're betting on credit with a bookie. That's where you get screwed.
All right, very good advice, of course, and that really led into my next question on the prop bets. What should bettors look for there, and what strategies would you impart? And I think you guys already did that quite soundly. So let's move along. You guys have been at this, between the three of you, quite a long time. Any interesting Super Bowl stories to share, whether they're tales of woe or otherwise? I'll start with you, Zach.
Yeah, I would say back in 2013, that was an interesting Super Bowl. San Francisco versus the Baltimore Ravens. Of course, we have the Colin Kaepernick thing this year, but you had the Ray Lewis storyline with the deer antler spray, him prolonging him there. But it was also the year that Beyonce was performing at halftime, and I just remember that was the big halftime show. Me and my buddies, we were debating the whole night on if she was going to go over, comparing her to Alicia Keys. So that's what we're talking about, having fun with the props. You've got the exotic props out there. You have the player props. Have fun with those exotic props. Those are the ones that I like to have fun with there.
Fire away, Teddy.
I'm so jaded. I have so many stories. I'm trying to think of what's the good one. I like right sides. When you have, last year I thought I had a right side for about 3.5.
So did I.
Yeah. It didn't work. But the most fun Super Bowls for me. I'm trying like Bucks Raiders. That was the best Super. That's probably the best Super Bowl I ever had because that game, everybody I knew was on Tampa. We all loaded up on Tampa. We watched at the bar, and I don't drink much. Look at me. I'm halfway into this Bud Light, and we're
we got you a bad beer. I'm
I
sorry.
know, and it's also a little bit early in the morning for
Yes,
finding these out. But the bottom line is, you remember that? I don't know if you remember the game, Bucks Raiders. It was over well before halftime. It was pick six City. It was Gruden, against his former team. And we were just hammered. There was a bunch of wise guys. We're just like, I love you guys, the best pick ever, Oh, my God. I do not remember how I got home that night. And that doesn't happen often.
Wow, that's a good one. All right, Brady, share a story with us real quick.
I'll give you a good one and a bad one. A good one was way back when Jay Kornegay was at the Imperial Palace. I bet the NFC -4 before the matchup had solidified, and it turned out it was Kurt Warner and the Rams against Steve McNair and the Titans, and the game opened +8. So I had the Rams -4 and the Titans +8. And I think the
+8 on that game.
The Rampart Casino.
There was one +8 in the world that you got.
The Rampart Casino, and I think the game landed 6 or 7. So I middled that one. That was a great time, and it was almost not the case because they tackled the guy at the 1-yard line or whatever.
Right.
So that was a good one. The bad one was a few years back when I had a prop bet that the last score of the game would be a rushing touchdown, and I'm sitting there with the Seattle Seahawks and Marshawn Lynch at the 1-yard line, and Russell Wilson throws a pick, and I'm going, oh my goodness. We all know how that one ended.
Oh man, those are that's two great stories. All right, we're heading into the weekend, ahead of the big game. Obviously, it's Friday morning. We're at the Still in Las Vegas. I know some of you it's Friday afternoon, but this is the best time zone. It's still Friday morning here, and we're drinking Shock Top, for God's sake, at the Still. Any last-minute advice for bettors as hundreds of thousands of people converge on the sports betting capital that is Las Vegas? Teddy, we'll start with you on that one.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's more games than the Super Bowl this weekend.
That's true.
And one thing that happens on Super Bowl weekend, particularly on Super Bowl Sunday, man, favorites get overpriced. In the NBA, in college hoops, you can really find some good opportunities where the influx of public money this weekend is going to create positive expectation wagers in other sports besides the Super Bowl. So I guess my advice would be keep your eye on the broader, on the big picture, even though the Super Bowl obviously is going to capture everyone's attention.
All right.
Yeah, back to the props itself, I would say when you're analyzing props, and this is just how it happens for me, when you're analyzing props, it's much easier to pick player bets than team bets. So keep that in mind. That's why I'm saying limit your bets, limit your prop options, because it's much easier to make a player bet versus a team bet. And that's just because the prices are much more friendlier, the yardage terms are there, etc. So limit those, and I kind of compare it to going to the grocery store. If you go with a mindset you're going to get 5 things, you're going to go with a basket. You're going to come home with a basket full. So if you don't write down your plan, you're going to have some failure.
All right, let me let Brady wrap that one up.
I think a general rule with betting proposition bets, so many people come to town and they want to bet a little to win a lot, but I believe the props are really designed to suck it up and lay the juice. There's a lot of prop bets out there that are heavy favorites, and for a reason, because they convert about 75-80% of the time. Will somebody score 3 times in a row? Will there be a score in the last 2.5 minutes of the first half? Don't be the guy that's trying to beat the system and want to get that plus money proposition bet when the favorite is really the right side. There's the first score of the game is going to be a safety and it's going to pay you $8 million. There's a reason it's a long shot like that. So don't be afraid to bet a lot to win a little.
No, that's a good point. There was another handicapping peer of yours in town that I talked to over the course of the week, and he said, listen, with your props, again, have fun with them, but really your prop roster should probably have more minuses in front of it than pluses. So, all right, well, let's wrap up with here from the Still in Las Vegas on the Strip inside the Mirage, having a great time. Super Bowl betting roundtable with covers experts Brady Cannon to my right and to my left, Teddy Savransky and Zach Simony. Without giving away your plays, of course, let's just get some final thoughts on how you think things might play out on Sunday. And, Zach, we'll start with you on this and just move down the line.
Well, analyzing Nick Foles, obviously he was a starting quarterback for the Philadelphia Eagles prior, so you have that there. But let's keep in mind he was a backup. What is the last time a backup took a team to the Super Bowl in this scenario? I can't recall off the top of my head. Maybe Jeff Hostetler back in 1990. And I think when you look at the Eagles, they are a team. Their team philosophy got them to the Super Bowl, but they have shielded Nick Foles. The Vikings were the type of team that just deteriorated as the playoffs started. You have that one team every year that just flat out doesn't get it done in the playoffs, and the Vikings were that team. They shouldn't have beat the Saints, obviously, and they got the right matchup playing the Vikings there. So Nick Foles, I think you look at the playoff period here, they had the bye week. He was flat against the Falcons. They found a game plan to work against the Vikings. Like I said, the Vikings were deteriorated, and that's what happened. But now he had another bye week. How is he going to be mentally with that pressure and the jitters that he's obviously going to have facing the Patriots? And he's a backup. He's a backup quarterback playing in the Super Bowl. And I think we saw what happened with Case Keenum in the NFC Championship game. You can play a backup for that length of time. What's going to happen when you get the game plan against them?
Fire away.
All right, well, can I make a case against both teams?
Sure. You're
'Cause
Coach Savransky, for God's sake.
Well, in that case, I'll hog the mic.
Freaking covers.
I'm hogging this mic. Okay. Yeah, I think you can make a legitimate case for to bet against both teams. I found one of the two to be a stronger case, but let's just start. The case for Philly, the case against New England, is real simple. Starts with the fact that chalk doesn't cover in Super Bowls. You know how many chalks have covered since the Patriots won their first Super Bowl?
You're going to tell me.
I will. There's 4. All 4 come with giant asterisks, okay? It's been 16 Super Bowls, 4 and 12 for the favorites. And the 4, you have the Steelers versus the Seahawks. You remember that game?
Yes.
Everyone still complains about the officiating in that game, the worst officiated game in Super Bowl history. You have the Colts versus the Bears. What was that? Rex Grossman pick 6 in the fourth quarter.
Yep.
You have the Packers versus the Steelers. What was that? Rashard Mendenhall, fumble in the fourth quarter in scoring range as Pittsburgh was going on to take the lead. And the Patriots with the Falcons last year, which obviously is the worst bad beat in Super Bowl history.
Exactly,
and that's the only favorites that have covered in the last 16 years. Chalk doesn't cover. Okay, what else you got? You got the better defense. Better defense wins. That's Philly. Close games in every Patriots Super Bowl. It's something you brought up, Zach. Dogs 6-0 in New England Super Bowl in regulation. We're not, right. Talent disparity. You're not going to tell me that there's 4 points overall talent disparity between these two teams, or 4.5. There's not. So, and of course, favorites of higher than a field goal the last 10 years, 0-5 against the spread, 1-4 straight up, with Carolina losing to the Broncos, and the 49ers losing to the Ravens, and the Colts losing to the Saints, and the Steelers winning but not covering against the Cardinals, and the Patriots losing to the Giants. You can't lay points in the Super Bowl. No way you can bet New England. Okay, so what's the case for Philly, or for the Patriots?
Let's have it.
Well, it's real easy. What's the most undervalued team in football?
Well, it's got to be the Patriots.
There's no question. The most public team in the NFL is the most undervalued team in the NFL. They have been. The last time the Patriots had a losing season ATS, I went back 10 years. No losing seasons. 28-9 against the spread since the start of 2016. And the money comes against them every week. It's like the Browns. The wise guys are betting the Browns every week, and we laugh. Ha, ha, ha. Keep betting Cleveland. Ha, ha, ha. They bet against the Patriots every week. Where's the money coming to the Super Bowl? Against the Patriots again. 28-9. The most public team is covering at a 75% clip over 2 years. Yeah. It's insane. Then you have, what else we got for New England? We got the team off the blowout win versus the team off the non-cover. Where's the value? You have Nick Foles off a perfect game. That's what you were talking about. Nick Foles is a backup. Say what you want. He's had some great games. He's a backup QB. Strength of schedule. New England played the tougher schedule. Last but not least, experience. 7 trips for the Patriots. 7 games total for the Eagles. Yeah, you can make a great case for New England. There's no way Philly can cover this game.
Fantastic. So there you have both sides. Figure out what you like and get to the betting counter. Brady, we'll let you wrap it up on that subject.
Well, I have a much shorter version of what Teddy just described, but
the abridged version.
My numbers come to I made the line 4, and when I crunch my numbers, I have the Eagles winning by 3 points. But like Teddy said, when am I going to learn my lesson betting against the Patriots? They continue to outperform their numbers week in and week out. So even though there's been many times over the last few years that my numbers have said one thing, the Patriots they have a mystique, they have an ability to make numbers irrelevant. So I do have a ticket in my pocket, a future bet on the Eagles to win the Super Bowl. I think I'm going to hedge that bet and bet the Patriots on the money line and take one of those winners home. I think Philadelphia has a great chance to win this game, but they're going to have to play a perfectly executed game plan. I think New England, they have the experience. I think it'll be a good game. I think Philly can stay within the number, but I think the Patriots are going to come out victorious.
All right, great stuff from all you guys. Really appreciate it. Again, covers experts, Zach Simony, Teddy Savransky, Brady Cannon. Really appreciate their insights on this Covers Super Bowl betting roundtable from the Still inside the Mirage. Really want to give a big shout out to the Still. Thanks for giving us their space on this Friday morning. It's an incredible spot, eating, drinking, and sports viewing experience that you can have here at the Still. If you're in town this weekend, you might want to check out their Super Bowl party. I'm sure it's going to be awesome. Again, thanks to all these guys. ForCovers.com. You got something to add here, Teddy, real quick?
You got to invite him to the party tomorrow night.
Oh, well, I think we're sold out. Oh, we're having a good party tomorrow night, but we're sold out. However, I will tell you, it's good that you reminded me of this. Covers will be in the Mirage Sportsbook all weekend long, 3 to 7 today, noon to 4 Saturday, all day Sunday, doing a bunch of giveaways, gear and stuff, having a lot of fun in there, and giving away a $1,000 bankroll to bet on the Super Bowl, $350 on the side, $350 on the total. $300 to spread around on all these great props, and hopefully the advice these guys gave you for whoever wins, take that advice, and hopefully you can turn it into a little more money. But again, thanks to all of you. Thanks to the Still, ForCovers.com. I am Patrick Everson. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and give us a follow on Twitter @Covers.